are currently in Venus retrograde, Melissa has asked me to write up something about Venus and the Underworld to post on the Hive Magic School Slack channel. This ended up being more than just a couple paragraphs, so I'm making a video instead of a wall of text that no one will want to read. I'll post it on YouTube too, since it has to do with Inanna. So I'm not very knowledgeable about astrology, but I can see how the cycles of Venus could be related to the myth of Inanna's descent. So very, very briefly, for those who are not familiar with the descent myth, in Inanna's descent, Inanna descends to the underworld, the domain of Ereshkigal. Ereshkigal kills her, and with the help of Ninchuber and Enki and two beings created by Enki, Inanna is revived, but she can't leave the underworld without someone else taking her place. She notices that her husband Dumuzi isn't grieving her properly, so she sends him in her place. Okay, good, everyone is caught up. I never really considered Venus retrograde as relating much to the descent myth directly, or I didn't. While looking up the past Venus retrograde dates for this write-up, I discovered something that I'll come back to in a moment. But anyway, when retrograde started this time around, March 1st through April 12th, I thought that this would be a good time to work on something. But I didn't really know what, because like I said, I don't know a whole lot about astrology. So I meditated on what I should be working on during this Venus retrograde, connecting with Inanna for guidance. She is my patroness, as you all probably already know, and Venus is her planet, so anything to do with Venus in astrology is probably good for connecting with Inanna and working with the domains that she has influence over. What I got back was just a message that during retrograde, she isn't actually going backwards. She's going the same way she always does. It just appears that she is going backwards to us from our perspective on Earth. So I think what this means is that we shouldn't worry about how our progress looks to outside observers. You know that you're moving forward, even if some observers might look at what you are doing and think that you are moving backwards. That's a them problem. It has nothing to do with you. You're doing just fine. So that might be an energy you'd want to work with during retrogrades. With Venus retrograde specifically, you might want to think about relationships, not just romantic, but all types. You might want to think about connection and communication within these relationships, or repairing broken connections, etc. Another thing with Venus retrograde is that I think it could also be viewed as a time for reflecting on and healing from past experiences of being in the underworld, so to speak. Specifically, working with the energies of Venus for this type of healing work. So focusing on relationships, connection, beauty. I came to this conclusion because even though I don't really follow astrology, I did just happen to end up having experiences related to these that lined up with the last two Venus retrogrades. Actually 3, but I only just realized that the first of these happened during a Venus retrograde as well. So I only just realized that 3 Venus retrogrades ago was during the time when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Venus retrograde started December 19th, 2021 and ended January 29th, 2022. I got the diagnosis call on, I think, January 4th after having the biopsy on December 30th. Then one of my very few friends that I've known since high school also passed away January 5th. So there was a whole lot of trauma going on during this period. To compound the Venus influences, the trauma from my cancer diagnosis wasn't just the physical effects of the disease and the treatment. The experiences also brought a lot of relational issues and hurt to the forefront. When you get diagnosed with breast cancer, people just love to tell you all about the statistics about husbands leaving their wives who get breast cancer, because apparently that is helpful somehow. Well, my marriage is just fine. Sorry to disappoint y'all. But what the cancer did do is to highlight the lack in every other relationship area. At the very most vulnerable time in my life, I was also left to face the reality that I don't really have much of a support system at all, other than my husband. Like certain people who you would have expected to offer emotional support were completely MIA, not so much as a text message to see how I was doing. So perhaps this is partly why I turned to Inanna and building a spiritual practice during this time. When I came out on the other side of this whole thing, I completely understood why, in Inanna's descent, upon seeing that Dumuzi didn't grieve her death properly, she sent him to take her place in the underworld. Just imagine an alternate version of the myth where it wasn't Dumuzi she found celebrating her death, but instead Nana. That would be a more accurate analog of what was going on, I suppose. And then imagine that it was Nana who had sent her to the underworld to begin with. Then you'll see a more full picture. Not to slander Nana, he wouldn't do that to Inanna. That was just a metaphor. So I guess in the myth, he did refuse to help Ninchuber rescue her. So I started exploring my spirituality in more depth after the whole breast cancer thing. I know everyone is probably tired of me talking about it by now, but it was a major life-changing traumatic event in my life. So I guess just get over it and be glad you aren't the one to have actually experienced it. So I started getting deeper into building my spiritual practice in 2022. And then in 2023, I discovered a whole Facebook group for people who worship Inanna. I mainly just lurked around there for a while, and then I found out about Ishtar Fest from that group. Ishtar Fest was the first time I had ever actually met other devotees of Inanna. I found out about the Circle of Inanna through Ishtar Fest, and I joined in July. The first circle I attended ended up being the second day of Venus retrograde in July 2023. So this kind of marked a new phase in my healing journey from the events that started during the previous Venus retrograde. I guess I just started feeling like I needed to start building new connections, new relationships. I'm very lonely. I know people don't want to hear about how someone who has a stable romantic relationship is lonely, but everyone needs more than just one person in their life. People who have a million BFFs and close family connections are allowed to also want a romantic relationship, so it goes the other way too. So during that Venus retrograde cycle, I started working on building connections within the pagan community and continued to build my connection with Inanna and just go deeper into my practice. Then this year, Venus retrograde happened again last month. I mentioned it in another video, but I ended up getting my tattoo of Inanna's 8-pointed star on the second day of Venus retrograde last month. I didn't plan it out or anything. I just went with the first date that the artist I wanted to go to had available. It felt important to me though. Getting a tattoo for Inanna is essentially creating a permanent connection to her, or at least making that connection visible. Now, more than ever, we as pagans need to come together and be visible in the world. No more hiding away in the broom closet or whatever. But that's a topic for another time. I started going to the Hive Magic School the week before that, I think. So that was technically before retrograde started. But I've been going there through all of this Venus retrograde cycle. I think today, April 12th, is the last day of Venus retrograde, depending on if I get this edited and uploaded today or not. The next one will happen starting October 3rd, 2026. So I wonder what will be going on then. Venus retrograde lasts about 40 to 42 days, which gives you plenty of time to reflect on life, the universe, and everything. I could go way deeper into these topics, but I wanted to keep this video short. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or whatever it is you're supposed to say at the end of these videos. And I'll see you next time.